Captain James Hartford stood in the central chamber of the Valoran Council Hall, his boots clicking against the crystalline floor as he shifted his weight nervously. The massive room stretched upward into darkness, its walls lined with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythmic waves. 6 council members sat before him on their elevated platform, their elongated forms draped in flowing robes that seemed to merge with the living architecture around them. He had saved their entire colony. 3 months of grueling work, navigating through asteroid fields and hostile territories to deliver the medical supplies they desperately needed. The plague had been spreading fast, and without his intervention, millions would have perished. Now they wanted to thank him properly, in their traditional way. Captain Hartford, the eldest council member, began, her voice carrying that musical quality all Valorans possessed. You have done our people a great service. According to our customs, we must offer you a gift of companionship. James smiled, trying to hide his excitement. He had heard about Valoran pets from other traders. Small, intelligent creatures that could bond with their owners telepathically. Some captains paid fortunes for them. Getting one as a reward would be incredible. Thank you, honored council, he replied, bowing slightly, as he had learned from the cultural briefings. I'm truly grateful. The council members exchanged glances, those subtle movements of their heads that suggested communication beyond his understanding. The eldest rose from her seat, gesturing toward a doorway that had just materialized in the wall to her right. We have selected carefully, she said. Please receive our gift. James turned toward the doorway, anticipation building. He imagined a small creature, perhaps something with fur and large eyes, something that would keep him company during the long stretches between star systems. Instead, a woman stepped through. She was humanoid, though clearly not human. Her skin held a faint lavender hue that caught the ambient light, and her hair cascaded down her shoulders in shades of deep violet. Her eyes were larger than human proportions would allow, colored in swirls of amber and gold. She wore simple clothing that suggested both elegance and practicality, and she moved with a grace that made the air around her seem to ripple. James felt his jaw drop. He quickly closed his mouth, but the shock must have been obvious on his face. This is Lyra, the eldest council member announced. She has been chosen to accompany you as thanks for your heroism. She is skilled in navigation, linguistics, and medical care. She will serve you well. The woman, Lyra, stepped forward and bowed deeply. When she raised her head, James caught the briefest flicker of something in her expression. Fear? Resignation? He couldn't quite tell. Wait, James said, raising his hands. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I can't accept a person as a gift. Where I come from, that's not how we do things. The council members shifted, their expressions showing confusion. The eldest tilted her head, studying him with those penetrating eyes. You refuse our gift? She asked, and there was genuine bewilderment in her tone. This is a great honor, Captain. Lyra is from one of our finest families. She has volunteered for this role. James looked at Lyra again. She stood perfectly still, her eyes downcast now, hands folded in front of her. Everything about her posture suggested training, preparation. This wasn't spontaneous. She had been groomed for this moment. I appreciate the honor, James said carefully, his mind racing to find the right words. But in human culture, people aren't gifts. We believe in freedom of choice. If Lyra wants to travel with me, that's different, but she would be a crew member, not property. The council members conferred among themselves in low tones. James caught fragments of their language, though his translator struggled with the nuances. Finally, the eldest spoke again. You misunderstand our ways, Captain. This is not ownership as you fear. Lyra chooses to honor you with her service. She will return to us when she wishes. This is how we show gratitude, by offering the companionship of one of our own. To refuse would insult not just us, but her. James looked at Lyra again. This time she met his gaze. Those golden eyes held intelligence and something else he couldn't quite identify. She spoke for the first time, her voice soft but clear. "I have trained for this, Captain Hartford. Please do not reject me because of your cultural discomfort. I understand you see things differently, but I would be honored to join your crew." There was pride in her voice, and James realized he had been thinking about this all wrong. This wasn't about slavery or ownership. This was about duty and honor in a culture completely different from his own. "All right," he said slowly, "but we do this my way. You're part of the crew, with full rights and full pay. You can leave whenever you want. And you call me James, not Captain. Deal?" A small smile crossed Lyra's face. Deal. The journey back to his ship, the Wanderer, was quiet. Lyra walked beside him through the crystal corridors of the Valoran city, carrying a small bag that apparently contained everything she owned. James kept stealing glances at her, still trying to process what had just happened. "You must think we're very strange," Lyra said as they exited into the open air. Above them, 3 moons hung in the purple sky. "No stranger than you probably think humans are," James replied honestly. "I just didn't expect this. I thought they were going to give me some kind of animal." Lyra laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "You thought they would give you a pet? That explains your reaction." "No, Captain. I mean, James, we do not keep pets in that way. We believe all creatures capable of choice should exercise it." "Then why this tradition?" James asked as they approached the landing pad where the Wanderer sat. "Because companionship is the greatest gift we can offer," Lyra explained. "To send one of our own with you, to share your journey and your challenges, that is how we express our deepest gratitude. I am not your servant, James. I am your companion, if you will have me." James stopped walking and turned to face her fully. The evening light caught her features, making her seem almost ethereal. But there was nothing fragile about the way she held herself. "Can I ask you something honestly?" he said. "Of course. Did you really volunteer for this, or were you pressured?" Lyra's expression softened. "I volunteered. When I heard what you had done, risking your life repeatedly to bring medicine to people you had never met, I wanted to meet you. I wanted to understand what kind of person does that. My family has served the Council for generations. This is our way of contributing. And yes, before you ask, I can return home at any time. I have a communicator that can summon a ship within days." They reached the Wanderer, and James activated the boarding ramp. The ship was modest by galactic standards, a small freighter designed for a crew of 3, but usually operated by him alone. Lyra followed him inside, her eyes taking in every detail. "It's cozy," she said diplomatically. James laughed. "It's cramped and needs repairs, but it's home. Let me show you to your quarters." Over the following weeks, James discovered that Lyra was everything the Council had promised and more. Her navigation skills cut their travel times significantly. Her knowledge of linguistics helped them avoid several potentially dangerous misunderstandings at various ports. And her medical training came in handy when James caught a nasty virus on a colony world. But more than her skills, it was her companionship that changed everything. The Wanderer had been quiet for so long, just the hum of engines and the occasional automated message. Now there was conversation, laughter, even friendly arguments about the best routes or whether certain alien cuisines were edible. One evening, as they sat in the small common area sharing a meal, Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "You were afraid of me at first," she said. It wasn't a question. James nodded, chewing his food before responding. "Not of you specifically. I was afraid of what accepting you might mean. Where I come from, there's a dark history of treating people as property. The idea of receiving a person as a gift triggered all those alarm bells. "I understand," Lyra said. "But you chose to learn instead of simply refusing. That takes wisdom." "I almost did refuse," James admitted. "If you hadn't spoken up, I might have. Then I am glad I did." She paused, then added, "I am also glad you insisted on doing things your way. Being treated as an equal, as a crew member with rights, it makes this feel right." James raised his glass. "To cultural exchange and unexpected friendships." Lyra clinked her glass against his. "To new beginnings." As the Wanderer continued through the stars, carrying its crew of 2 toward whatever adventures awaited, James reflected on how wrong his initial assumptions had been. He had expected a pet, something simple and uncomplicated. Instead, he had gained a partner, someone who challenged him and supported him in equal measure. The Valorans had been right after all. Companionship was indeed the greatest gift they could have given him. He just hadn't understood what true companionship meant until Lyra walked through that doorway. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Wanderer flew on, no longer a lonely ship, but a home for 2 souls, learning to navigate not just the stars, but the complex beauty of understanding between worlds.